Today's date is November 11th, 2020, and although this is unrelated to the main point of this video, I would just like to bring up that today is in fact Veterans Day. Veterans Day is a holiday recognized by the United States that takes place on November 11th each year, and this day is basically dedicated to honoring any veteran that has served in the United States military, in the United States Armed Forces. So I would just like to take this moment to say that anybody that is watching this video that is currently serving in the United States Armed Forces or has previously served in the United States Armed Services, I would just like to say that I respect you for all of your hard work and I honor your service to the United States of America. Now to get to the actual topic of this video, I'm making this video because I want to talk about how bad how bad COVID-19 has gotten. Mainly in the United States, that is the prime focus of this video, to talk about the United States. That is basically what my entire channel is about, talking about United States politics mainly, but I will take these first couple minutes to talk about what the worldwide scenario looks like, what the situation is looking like for the entire world overall. So you can see here, we have 52 million cases in total. We've had 52 million cases since the beginning of 2020, or I guess it's really since the end of 2019, since this virus first started infecting humans in late 2019. But this 52 million mark, we actually just crossed the 50 million threshold a few days ago or a week ago, somewhere around then. I can actually show you here. If you go to linear, November 7th is when we crossed it. So coincidentally, that was the same day that Joe Biden was declared the winner of the presidential election, but that's just 4 days ago. So just 4 days ago, we crossed the 50 million case count threshold for the worldwide total. And that is very unfortunate. I remember back in the summer, I was thinking that when we crossed the 10 million case count threshold, I thought that was a really large number, but now we're at five times that amount. The reason why the case count has grown so quickly in the last few months is with this chart. In the spring, it wasn't that many cases per day. In the summer, it got worse though, and now we're at an all-time high worldwide. We've reached the 600,000 daily case count worldwide, and that number might continue to increase. And that means that we get 1 million cases less than every 2 days. So by November 13th, you can expect this number to be 53 million. In fact, by tomorrow, if we get 600,000 cases a day, that means that by tomorrow night, this number will be 53 million, and by the end of this week, this number will be 54 million. It is very unfortunate that the case count worldwide is growing so quickly, but unfortunately, there's not really any major action that can be taken because it's all happening in many different countries. In the United States itself, there's more that can be done because you have the national government that can take care of some things, but when it's at a global scale, when you're dealing with this many countries, there's not really any one major action that can really solve this issue. It's just that every individual country has to deal with their own situation. But 52 million deaths, 52 million cases, unfortunately. We're getting to the deaths now. We're at 1.289 million deaths. We're about to reach 1.3 million soon. That is also very unfortunate. It looks like we're having a spike in our daily death count once again. We even beat the original spike we had back in late March, early April. That is also very unfortunate, but if you see that we have the daily case count spike here, I guess it would make sense that it would shortly follow the daily death count spike. But this is very unfortunate. If you look here, around 37 million cases have had an outcome, and most of those, thankfully, have recovered, but around a million of them, like we talked about here, have died, 1.289 million to be exact. So there's currently 14 million, almost 15 million active cases worldwide. That number is probably going to increase more in the coming weeks because you have more people getting the virus you have people getting the virus at a faster rate than they're recovering from it, basically. Because of this spike here, you have more cases now than you did a few weeks ago, and that is why you're going to see this number, the active case count, increase. But let's talk about the United States now. I actually spent more time talking about the worldwide situation than I originally meant to, but let's talk about the United States now. So, in the United States, we're at around 10.7 million. We actually crossed the 10 million case count threshold around a week or two ago. I don't remember exactly, but we'll take a look at that in a second. And this daily death count is getting uncomfortably high. 247,000 deaths. That is almost 250,000. That is extremely tragic. Even like 1,000 deaths would be absolutely tragic, but you have 250 times that. That is just unbearable. That is thousands of families, hundreds of thousands of families that have suffered from the loss of a loved one, and those lives are never coming back. And the worst part is that it's not even close to being over yet. We're at an all-time high in daily death count and daily case count. We're gonna get to that in a second. And the pandemic has no signs of ending anytime soon. The vaccine, although it is close to being finished, I think in production, it still takes many months to actually get out to the majority of the population. So this is a very unfortunate situation that we see ourselves in. I'm really hoping that things start to clear up in the spring of next year, spring of 2021, but what the scientists say is true. We're in for a dark winter. There's no sugarcoating that. That's unfortunately the truth. I wish it was not the truth more than anything, but that is unfortunately what we're dealing with. So total cases 10.7 million, like I said, and then we can actually look here. We can see when we actually crossed the 10 million mark. So 9.92 million. That was just 6 days ago. So it was actually 5 days ago. Only 5 days ago when we crossed the 10 million case mark. And that was November 6th of this month, of this year, obviously, but that was just 5 days ago. And just this month, actually, is when we crossed both the 10 million mark in the United States and the 50 million mark worldwide. So this month has been a very bad month in terms of COVID-19. One more thing that happened this month in the last 2 weeks is the first state in the country crossed a million cases. Texas just recently got 1 million cases. Recently crossed the 1 million case count mark, which is very unfortunate. And it's also really climbing in number of deaths. And unfortunately, Texas might catch up to New York soon in terms of total number of deaths. I really hope that does not happen. I really hope that no other state catches up to New York. I don't want more people dying from this, but unfortunately, that is what this winter might have in store for us. Honestly, I cannot tell you what will happen in the next few months. I cannot predict the future, but I'm just giving what I think will happen. A lot of experts are predicting that by next February 2021, the total death count in the United States will be around 400,000. And that seems pretty high. That seems pretty tragic. That seems pretty disturbing, to say the least. That many more deaths are awaiting. That doesn't sit right with me, but looking at the data, it looks like that's actually a possibility. I want to show you this graph. Look at the number of daily cases we're having now. 142,000 today, 142,000 yesterday. We're having a giant spike that we didn't see in the summer or the spring. This is a whole new spike that's worse than anything we've seen throughout this year in terms of number of cases. Then scroll down, number of deaths. Although it's still not as bad as what it was in the spring, and that is very good thing. I'm so glad that we haven't beaten that yet. It's still continuing to climb, the daily death count. We just had 1,478 deaths today, and that is higher than anything we saw in the summer, except for a couple of exceptions where there were around 1,500 cases in a day, but the number of deaths per day is climbing. The number of cases has skyrocketed. We're at an all-time high. Literally, we've never had this many cases in a day anytime in the past 8 months. Started out at around 30,000 per day. I thought that was big. Then we have the summer spike, 75,000 a day. I thought that was really bad. Now we're at double that, 70,000 times 2, 140,000. That's the point we're at right now. That is very unfortunate, but that's where we're at. Last thing I'd like to show you is the Texas stats. We recently crossed the million case count threshold, like I said. Soon going to be crossing the 20,000 death threshold. That is very, very tragic. I wish we didn't have any more deaths, but that is the nature of this virus. That's the nature of this pandemic. It doesn't care what you think. It doesn't care if you want it to stop or not. It's not like a person where you can just arrest it. It's not like an animal even where you can just tame it. It's a pandemic. It's a virus. It doesn't care what you think about it. It'll go after you if you don't take precautions. All I'm gonna say is, if you go out in public, please wear a mask. Please, masks will do such a good job at stopping this pandemic. So many studies have shown that masks do an amazing job, a spectacular job at stopping the spread of this pandemic. And if everybody wore a mask whenever possible, I can tell you right now, the number of daily cases would probably drop by around 80%, maybe at least 50%, but probably closer to around 80% if I'm being honest, if everyone wore masks whenever possible. So yeah, Texas, 1 million cases in total now, almost 20,000 deaths in total. If we look at the line graph for Texas, we can see when we actually hit the million. But yeah, also look at this. Texas is spiking as are many other states. I thought Texas wouldn't be affected that badly by this particular spike, but it looks like we're reaching an all-time high in terms of daily cases in Texas, 12,000 daily cases. And unfortunately, Texas just happens to be the state that I live in, so I'm gonna have to suffer the consequences of this giant spike. But let me go to the daily cases here, the line graph. Yep, November 6th. That's when we crossed a million cases in Texas. That's also when we crossed 10 million cases in the United States. And the day after that, November 7th, is when we crossed 50 million cases worldwide. So the first week of November, these past 2 weeks of November, have really not been good for humanity as a whole, to be honest. COVID-19 has really been able to spread in the last few weeks. And we're reaching an all-time high in Texas, all-time high in the United States, and an all-time high worldwide in terms of daily cases. I wish this wasn't the truth. I wish that I was lying about this, but you see the data here. There's no sugarcoating it. We're in for a dark winter. I guess one thing, if I'm going to end this video off on some good news, recently Pfizer announced that they were developing a vaccine, and it appears that their vaccine has had around a 90% effectiveness rate in their test subjects. So I've given so much bad news in this video, I apologize for that, but if I'm ending this video off on some high note, it's that the Pfizer vaccine might actually be very effective in terms of stopping this pandemic once it actually reaches the general public. That's all I have to say for this video. I hope that I didn't disappoint you too much, but I'm just here to tell you the truth, and that's exactly what you'll get on this channel.